Yes. So I have a few things to say, but let's just sit for a moment and we'll open and I'll just say them within the context of the practice. So just please make yourself comfortable. We'll take a few moments, even though we're already here, just to simply arrive. And now the inquiry of yoga. So the first thing I would like to say is I just sort of responding to this question that someone emailed me about a few days ago, wanting a little bit more refinement and explanation on what it really means to be receptive, especially feeling when you're in a posture and there's great challenge or discomfort and it just feels like you're just focused on this one place. How is it, or what does it mean to be receptive? Yes, we're always exploring this yin quality of open receptivity. So it really, and so what came to me is that it's meant to be, and I do believe this is an open-end exploration, to be effortless receptivity. And the imagery that came to me, it's as if you came in from the cold and you were going to take a nice warm bath. So if the water is too cool, yes, there will be an element of slightly contracting and bracing. If the water is too hot, there will be an element of slightly contracting, or maybe not so slightly, and just bracing, going into defensive mode. But when you're feeling this cold right in your bones and you slip into this warm water, and the temperature is just right, your body just naturally just opens to receive the warmth. It's like you don't have to do anything. It's just that this is the effortless receptivity. Your body is just open and it feels like the warmth is seeping in, complete relaxation and nothing to do. So that is really the endeavor which each one of these poses. If we're not in a right position and the depth is not quite right on the lighter side, it's almost too distracting because nothing is really happening. There's nothing to be receptive to. So it's not a restorative practice where we want complete and absolute comfort and then we just drift off into a sort of in-between state. But at the same time, if the depth is not appropriate on the other end where it's not feeling safe, or you do brace or become defensive in the body, then again, we're not able to receive. So there is a psychological and a physical receptivity. So this pressure can be received by the tissues of the body, by the collagenous fibers of the fascia, and by the entire body in general. So just please, let's keep that in mind when we're coming in and out and navigating and bolstering, that we want to be exploring, for whatever the duration of the pose, this effortless receptivity. And this is why even the amount of time, the duration, is really for you to regulate. Because if you're in too long, if the amount that I hold it can seem rather random, and in a way it is, then you want to be able to readjust to that. So you continually go back to this effortless receptivity. So you're in the warm bath, and you need to add a little more hot water or a little more cold water to keep the level of the warmth, so it's just being received and it's just saturating right into your joints and your bones. Good. So let's get started. I think the other thing that I want to share with you, I'll do it within the context of the posture. So let's get a hold of a large bolster if you have a large bolster. If you don't have a large bolster, just place a few pillows in front of you to support the right leg. And then we're going to just, as you're sitting, and maybe if you've been sitting cross-legged, take a moment or two to open the legs out before we bend them back in. And then we'll take the left leg and we'll bring it in towards you. So this left leg is pretty much parallel to the body. And then put your pillows or your bolster in front. And we're going to put the right leg up on top of it. And so sometimes if you angle the pillows or the bolster too much, it's only supporting the foot. I'm suggesting at least to start to support the entire bottom half of the leg from the knee to the foot. So it allows us to come a little bit more straightforward. If you need a little bit of angle, just angle the whole bolster. Don't angle the leg off of it. And then let's just come slowly into a forward bend. So this is where this investigation begins, the effortless receptivity. We're not interested in aesthetics. We're not interested in depth. We're interested in listening to the way the body starts to slow you down or invite you in, the quality of the discomfort, all of these sort of subtle factors. I hope they're subtle. Just relaxing into this, so we're right there to just explore what it means to make the body available to being receptive to the pressure. And also allow this receptivity to extend to the way that you are psychologically approaching your body. So even if I was able to give you a detailed scientific accounting of what's happening, it still would be inaccurate. So we're much more interested in letting go of the mind's need to micromanage what's happening, and much more interested in feeling the delicate texture of how your body is receptive to this angling of the body, the range of motion, the breath, the discomfort, all of these factors that are kind of morphing in and out of your experience. So just stay with your experience as much as you can, and leave the micromanaging for whatever it is you enjoy micromanaging. Good. So let's come on up from here, just for a moment, actually. So just come on up and let both legs relax out right over whatever bolstering you have, whether you have the large bolster or some pillows. And we want to just put the bolstering under the knees so that the hips are nice and released. And the feet can, you don't have to keep the soles of the feet together. You can let them relax out. So that'll just allow for maximum hip relaxation. And then soften again the lower back and begin to come in and down, not so much forward, but in and down. And then if you need to put something in front to lean the forehead on, feel free to do that. If you're, willing and able to just let the tension of the neck be explored, that's also fine. But always within the container of this effortless receptivity, which we're, in a broad sense, what we're calling yin. So this morning I was listening to one of really my primary teachers, Rupert Spira, and the general discussion was our relationship to the teacher, the teachings, the path, anything that we feel drawn to in terms of our learning process. So just very beautiful. Rupert has a way not only of being extremely lucid and clear about what the essence of non-duality is, but he's also quite a master in drawing you in to actually experience it experientially. Yes, so to actually explore what this non-dual quality is. So what he was saying, he was saying that we can often think that our love for the teachings, our love for the teacher, our love for our path, it can be very much like being a moth drawn to the flame. And this can be quite the trap. This can be a trap because then we, by necessity, separate ourselves from the teaching, ourselves from the teacher. And especially if we're putting the teacher on somewhat of a pedestal, or even the teachings on a pedestal, whether they be, current or, from days gone by. So what he was very clear about is he said, just understand that if you're feeling like you are a moth and you are drawn to the flame of the teachings or the teacher, understand that you are the flame. You are the moth and you are the flame. And just so incredibly lovely, because in that just one beautiful, simple, clear image, it in some way embraces the entirety of the teaching, the entirety of the yoga. So let's come on up from here. And now let's just remove whatever bolstering you have under the knees, pillows or big bolster. And let's bring that left leg in again, just like we did when we elevated that right leg. But this time we're just going to place it in front of us, maybe have something soft. I have a little towel in front of me, but not to elevate it. So don't make your towel or blanket so it elevates this right leg bone out of this right hip. Just have it relaxed and down. And then let's come back into the forward bend. So just a nice, slow opening of the spine. So a very conscious and mindful felt sense from the hips and the sacral area right up through the thoracic area. And then how does that restriction, that tugging feel in the upper neck and the spine? So just allow yourself to relax into it and soften. And certainly I do understand. And this is the real nuance of this practice. And the real nuance of yoga actually is the sort of the changing fine line between being receptive to the discomfort and beginning to struggle with it. So be nuanced with this. So when you start to experience the urge of struggle, the urge of defensiveness, then perfectly fine to either just simply relax into it and allow the receptivity to expand, or make a slight change. Nothing wrong with making adjustments or withdrawing. And then the discernment becomes, am I moving away from this discomfort because it just is distracting, or is there a deeper sensitivity there? Am I losing that exploration of receptivity to feeling unsafe? So it's very, very nuanced. And this is why we take our time in these poses, not just for the physical effects on the tissues and the cells and the bones and the joints, but to explore the nature of this nuanced experience. And like I said, that's always changing. So come on up from that, please. And get yourself either 2 blankets or a blanket and a towel, or 2 towels, 2 clothy things that you can make rolls out of, yes? So this first one, I'm gonna roll up, we're gonna make even rolls. So since I've done this before, and I know what my lower back needs and wants and can tolerate, I know how much to roll it. You may indeed not, so you can explore with the height of the roll, the rolls actually. So I did the first one with a blanket, and then I'm taking a towel, and I'm gonna make a second roll with that. Okay, and also I know the towel is a little softer than the blanket, so I'm adjusting the height a little bit with that. So basically what I have here is I have 2 rolls and I've pressed them together. Good. So I just want to say a little bit about this before we go fully into it. It's just a little easier to explain where we're going to place this. So typically, if you've done this practice before, and I know a lot of you have, and you've actually done this, we just simply sit on the floor, pull this as much into the lower back as possible, and just come into a deep lumbar backward bend with the secondary roll for the lower thoracic. What I'm going to suggest this time is to go more mid-spine. So I'm bringing this, I'm feeling a little bit of my upper lumbar, most of my thoracic spine, but below the shoulder blades. So we're going to start right here in mid-spine. Yep. And then if this doesn't feel like you're making proper contact with both bolsters, or it's too deep, adjust them, unroll them, roll them a little higher. So we're going to stay here for some time in this mid-back place. Yep, below the scapula, not quite in the lumbar. And then I'm going to recommend at some point to put the feet stably on the floor and just shimmy your body up so they come deeper into the lumbar. Don't let the buttocks come on the floor, but I've made a very distinct shift now out of the mid so much with that second towel. And now, oh my God, I'm in my lower back. It's just delightful. Just delightful. Okay, so let's begin there. 2 rolls, and they will be, obviously, we're not doing them vertically, we're doing them horizontally, yes? And don't be so close to the lumbar, and just kind of play with it. Yeah, readjust the roll so we have time to do this. And again, hopefully the initial descent in is with this idea of this effortless receptivity. Yeah, so we don't need to be in the bath for a long time before we know if the temperature is just right. So we take a little bit of time initially to see, like, okay, that may be uncomfortable, that may be tugging, this may be a little achy, but I can relax. I can cultivate receptivity. If that's the case, yes. Or you may feel like, no, I need to make some adjustments just to get it just right. Just right is ideal. And then the time is really the potency of this practice, how long we spend. So the receptivity can really weave its way deeply into the fabric of the body. another luxury, and I would also say a necessity of allowing these lengthy durations. To me, it's just luxurious to be able to do this. And so many benefits that we explore in the course of a single pose. But one of them is to begin to make a distinction between actually being in your body and all of your ideas about your body. And these are just these ideas we have about our body are really just the baggage that we carry along with us. Yes, we look in the mirror and we have photographs, and most of us have very elaborate self-images. So the yoga is really allowing us to see there's a discernment, the direct experience of being in the body, very different than our images about the body. And on a deeper level, this is also needs a quality, a holding of the receptivity, because this is not as easy as maybe I'm making it sound. It's not a simple thing, because often this self-image, body image, ego image is really our only way of identifying. It's what we hold on to. We believe it to be true. So to start to shed some of those layers and go into a more visceral experience, this can be, have a degree of uncertainty to it. So this is, in a way, what we're practicing. When we say practice, we're not practicing for any reason other than this very refined exploration, this very refined exploration of experience. So the experience of the body, and the experience of the thought process, thoughts as energy presence, and how this might differ, and there might be a contradiction between these self-images that we carry along and how we feel about all of that. Because ultimately, experience is the only thing that is verifiable. Thoughts themselves have nothing to do with what they represent. A thought is just an energy presence, and it has nothing to do with reality. So a yoga posture is meant to touch reality, if you will, experience reality at the level of verifiable experience. So this might be a good place to make that little transition, but do as you will with it. So what I was suggesting is we have some bolstering in approximately the mid-spine. That's a lot of roll there. So I'm suggesting is to put the feet on the floor and just shimmy your body up, so that bolstering goes into the lower back. And you may indeed, if the intensity is too much, you may want to even elevate the hips a bit and just pull one of the rolls out and have one of the rolls in the lumbar spine. So, we're just down the whole back line here. So do what feels best. You may need to adjust the height of the rolls again. And then when you're done with all your adjustments, just please make sure you let the legs relax out. And let this lumbar, sacral, lower thoracic spine just relax upward. This is what the compression is for, sort of exaggerating the natural curves of that spine. Yes, yoga is only about recognition. It is not about fabrication. So, Lord knows we have spent. I'll just speak for myself. I have spent many, many years fabricating this elaborate self-image. And when I want to come to the truth of my existence, when I want to sincerely awaken from the suffering and pain, oftentimes this shell of self-image, it needs to be dealt with gently, but authentically. So the yoga is meant just to simply recognize what is the truth in this moment. What can I verify, and what am I fabricating? And then we have a process of just simply letting go of what's not serving us and exploring and nurturing what is serving us. And certainly we can have many, interesting and rather complicated esoteric definitions to define yoga. And certainly, hundreds of thousands of pages of scriptures to help us understand it. But yoga really is the simple recognition that you are the moth and you are the flame. This is the dance of Shiva and Shakti. The Shakti is the moth, the Shiva is the flame, and they're simply dancing. And they don't need any help. They're very, very good dancers. So we allow a certain receptivity and we allow a certain relaxation, and we just allow this recognition to just to arise. It's already there, but we sometimes veil it with self-image and self-importance and practices and all sorts of things. So this is why the closer we can get, it's almost like sneaking up on it, because its experience can be like seeing a deer in the yard, and you just want to be so gentle and sensitive with it, and just relax and just approach this dance, moth and flame, Shiva and Shakti, just as a very, very subtle, delicate experience. Good. So let's put your feet on the floor once again and have a little safe movement here out of this area. Uh, you can even shimmy up a little higher if you'd like to just get the pelvis on the back of these rolls, or just allow the knees to sway back and forth. And then when you can roll off of this, just roll over onto your side. We won't take a full rest yet. We'll just curl up to come into a gentle forward bend here, and then we'll do the other side of that forward bending that we just did. And this is also oftentimes I will talk about this practice, cultivating an intimacy with oneself. And I've had to, the last couple of years, part of my investigation is not talking about things that I haven't really integrated, or at least have a basic understanding of. And so there was a while where I had to really start to explore that. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean to cultivate an intimacy with oneself? And I think one way to look at this, and this certainly is with oneself or with another or with the world or with our practices, is what I'm beginning to see is that intimacy means no hierarchy. So if you're involved with yourself, with a sense of hierarchy, mind, body, heart, breathing, scriptures, postures, then that's not intimacy. That's something else. That's an exploration, and it's certainly valid. But the intimacy with oneself begins when you just let go of all hierarchy and you let the experience arise organically. So we forget about even a hierarchy of we're in a pose compared to not a pose, and then the posture itself just reveals itself. And I do think the same thing with others. If we're interested in being in an intimate relationship with another, whether it's a teacher or just a friend or a partner, that lack of hierarchy is just incredibly fundamental. Okay, so let's come on up and let's do the other side of that forward bending. So what that would entail then is just reversing the way the legs are, and we'll go through the same bolstering. So this time, as you're sitting with the legs out, we'll bring the right leg in front of you. We'll take your pillows or your big bolster, and then we'll put the left leg up on top of those. Yep. Yeah, so I just have to work with these pillows a little bit because that's perfect though. Yep, so the pillows work. Just the bolsters are a little easier because you can sort of, well, they just are, I think. So left leg on top in front, supported square, left femur coming up out of that hip socket, and then just allow the upper body to come down and in, softening, unengaging, preparing for this effortless receptivity, and just sinking into your body to just to cultivate an intimacy with yourself. Good. So let's arise. Just come on up nice and slowly. And let's just open both legs out and tuck whatever you're using for support under the knees and just soften right back into the forward bend. In exploring the imagery of the yin and the yang, this is not historical to yoga. This is just a contemporary context that we put it in. More appropriate is the imagery of Shiva and Shakti, and it can be alluring, if we understand Shakti to be the world, Shakti to be form and matter, thoughts and imagery, and Shiva to be just simply beingness and consciousness and happiness, just an empty intelligence. Then it can be very alluring to, first of all, to get lost in the Shakti and think we're lost and we're trapped in this form, in this matter. And if we could only get back to Shiva, if we could only get back to this empty, intelligent consciousness, this happiness, this beingness. But see, that's the dance. And that's the little tricky part of it, is that Shiva is Shakti and Shakti is Shiva. They are dancing. One is continually born out of the other. Shiva is the flame and Shakti is the moth. So there's no way to get there. There's no path to get there. There's no map to get there because we simply are already there. Within us, these energies of yin and yang, the fundamental primal contraction of contracting and expanding. This is fundamental to our cells, fundamental to our being. And so then we can open that. If we practice yoga, we can open that primal contraction and expansion and experience within our own hearts and our cells and our breathing the energy of Shiva and Shakti. And this is why I say earlier they're such good dancers, because they don't hold a hierarchy. Shakti, the form and the matter and the thoughts and the images, always knows on some level that it is Shiva. And Shiva in its brilliance is always knowing that when it experiences and expresses in form, it's always Shakti. So it's a knowingness. And without that hierarchy, then there's intimacy. And we could also call this love. So let's come on up from here. And let's open just the legs out for a moment. And again, I'm recommending something soft for this third part. And we're bringing the right leg back in, yes. And just as we had this left leg up onto the bolster earlier, we're gonna just place it down. So the blanket I'm using is, again, just for softness for the ankle, no elevation of this left femur. And then one more time, we'll dip into this forward bend in these different configurations of this square pose. So see if you can cultivate a relaxed receptivity, also with these thoughts and concepts and images. So yes, we maybe can understand it more clearly with the physical body, and that's certainly a worthy exploration. But I suggested earlier that possibly your concepts, your conceptual world, and just the thoughts that are continually arising and fading, that these are nothing more than an energy presence. They just come and go. So also see if you're open to cultivating a receptivity around that as well. So the less we can get stuck in the content of a thought or an image or a concept, the more that we can see that there is no line, there is no boundary between a feeling and the sensation and the thought. It's just this mixture, if you will, this blending of this energy, the presence of energy. And then as we habitually start to interpret that into various labels and symbols, then that allows us to to hold this certain kind of separation within us, which in itself has a form of tension. So we are just attempting to synchronize in with the primal vibration of the body, the energy presence, whether we call it a thought, we just put that label aside. Whether we call it a physical sensation, we put that label aside, or we call it a visceral feeling, an emotion even, we just put that label aside and just simply feel it. And then at some point we put that label of just feel it, we put that label aside as well. So let's come on up, please. So come on up, and I'm going to just show this with what I have here, and you can replicate it as you will. So before we lie down, we're going to take a rest now, but I'd like to just come into a little bit more restorative position to do that. So, sometimes I'll use the small bolster for my neck, but I've been using this blanket, and I like it a little better because I can roll it up and really feel supported in the cervical spine. So if you're having neck or shoulder issues, how you do the neck is really nice if you make a nice little roll so you're supported in the back of the neck, not the back of the head. And then also the one I have in the middle. So I have something high at the feet. I'm going to elevate the legs. I have a pad, not a bolstering effort for compression, but to relax the pelvic area. So I could even bring this over once more. So that will be determined on how you feel in the lower back. And then I have a roll for the neck. So what I would like you to do is place the pelvis, not the lower back, on this soft padding. And this may look like a lot, but I know my pelvis. So this is going to be nice and comfortable for my pelvis. And then I put my legs up. Try not to have the heels on the bolstering. I'm just going to angle, so I just want to show you the neck. It's just nice not to have that pressure on the heels, so the heels can dangle off, the ankles can dangle off. My pelvis is padded just so it's really cradled and supported. And then I'm going to put something under, you can kind of see it under my neck. So it just feels, again, the chin is a little elevated. There's no compression here, but just a feeling of support. So roll that appropriately. If you've just gone ahead and put it on the back of the head, what's going to happen is it's going to tilt the chin down. It's contrary to that upper curve of the spine, the cervical curve. So we want that supported. So do be mindful with that. And just let the arms relax out to the side. And yeah, we'll just rest here. And this is from the Wei Wu Wei Jing. Make your mind like the clear blue sky at dawn, unmarked by any message from man or heaven, and continually stoking the fire of emptiness with the breath. You instantly incinerate whatever appears. Yeah, I think there's just two very good suggestions here in this, ancient wisdom for contemporary times. Make your mind unmarked by any message from man or heaven, and stoking the fire of emptiness with the breath. So let us just very gently bring our attention to the breath. No need to change it or alter it, but just bring your awareness to the fact that your body is already breathing. So possibly before I mentioned it, it wasn't even in your awareness. But now you can just notice that, oh yes, this entire time, my body has been breathing. And I would just like you to bring your attention a little deeper into the breath, to the intelligence that is breathing your body, whether you're aware of it or not. Bring your attention to the mechanism of breathing that allows your body to breathe itself, whether you're aware of it or not. Let that attention expand to the pulsation of your heart, the intelligence that allows your heart to beat, whether you're aware of it or not. The intelligence that allows your blood to circulate, whether you're aware of it or not. The intelligence that allows healing to take place, whether you're aware of it or not. And in the context of yoga, I mean healing in the sense of being the healing from the illusion that we are separate from anything. Stoking the fire of emptiness with the breath. Again, from the Wei Wu Wei Jing. If you wish to enjoy the fruits of enlightenment, abandon regard for the conventional and the communal. The way is a path for one. Then it narrows until there's not even space for you anymore. So let's begin to stir a bit here, please. Just kind of allow your body to have some gentle passive movement, and then we will, when you're ready, you just work your way up. And then I'd like us to have something to put our arms on behind us. So you can either use the large bolster, it works great for that, or you can build something with pillows and blankets. So let me see. Yeah, so yeah, this is about right. And this will also depend on how, the angle of range of motion is in your shoulders, and particularly the fascia buildup, the dehydration of fascia in between the scapula. So that's one of our primary breathing mechanisms, among other things. So if this, mid upper back is tight, that's a consideration. And what we want to be able to do then, so whatever you built up, maybe I built this a little too high, but we'll see. It's much higher than this big bolster. But if you're using the bolster and you want it to go a little bit deeper, you could put a few blankets on the big bolster and build it up. Yeah, I'll remove this one blanket. So what I'm going to suggest is to just leave the legs relaxed out in front of you, and then sit about an arm's distance from what you have in back of you, whether blankets or big bolster. And then very simply, just interlock the fingers behind you. If you're not able to do that, you could just leave the arms open. But if you can interlock, that would be great. And then we want to place the hands up on this little edifice we built back here and try to keep the elbows straight. Now, I realize this may not be possible for everyone. I do understand. Then just bring it down. So just bring it down as much as you need to, or just interlock behind the back. So if you're not able to raise them enough even to place them on a pillow, just do what you can, yeah? And even if you can't interlock the fingers behind the back, just bring them back and then try to raise them up a bit. We just want to open this thoracic cavity as much as possible. So let's begin that. We'll just place the arms, the hands mostly, on some bolstering or not. Try to keep the elbows straight. And just for the first minute or so, let's just stay in stillness, so that your only movement will then be the sensitivity of the breathing. my recommendation is to breathe a little deeper. So on the inhale, you feel this opening, all of the bones externally rotating. And on the exhalation, you feel them internally rotating or going back to neutral. So only the breath here, and especially in all the, intricacy and complication of the shoulders, like I said, the scapula, what you might be feeling in the neck. And also just to hover a bit at the end of the breath. So you inhale and you feel this micro movement of bones and ligament, and fascia, and just hold it and feel it. And the same thing on the exhalation. Really feel that release. And then let's take the next minute and just have some intuitive movement of the head. So whatever feels appropriate here. And a couple of points during this, you may want to bring the chin up a bit and really open the mouth wide. And if you're by yourself and you want to make noise, please feel free to do it. But just to open, really stretching the jaw muscle and the face muscles. So just let it be intuitive how you do this. And especially with something like this, where there is certainly an element of muscular tension, can you still open or at least lean into this effortless receptivity? So you're not struggling, we're not trying to do anything. We're just trying to go deeper into the sensations and the restrictions and how they're holding each other. Good. So you can just relax the arms now, bring them forward and just sort of feel it. Sometimes it's nice. I like to just let my arms kind of float up and maybe go side to side a bit. So a lot happening in this, this rotator shoulder girdle area, scapula. And then when you're ready, with the legs out, yes, so if they weren't out, just let them extend out about hip width distance, but with the feet relaxed so the hips can relax. Again, soften, round, unengage muscularly the lower back and just settle into the forward bend. Use whatever support you need. If you've got the support behind you, feel free to bring it forward. We're going to use it again, but we'll readjust. But just a nice, gentle, upper, middle, lower articulating of the spine. And anytime you begin to notice any kind of struggling, any kind of suffering, any kind of self-judgment, just a sort of a preoccupation with the discomfort, this is only a signal. All of these things are just signals that you've begun to contract this effortless receptivity. So you do whatever you need to do. You listen to what you need to go back to this receptivity. This is why we're holding this container as yin yoga, because we want to have the entire experience be from this container of receptivity. So when you ease out of that, this is nothing bad. You've done nothing wrong. You're not getting it wrong. This is a signal. So your body is giving you these intelligent signals to say, no, we want to back off. We want to readjust. We want to allow that repetitive thought to go wherever it needs to go. Just let it bypass and just be in this, this internal juiciness. You're just kind of marinating in this, collagenous, fluid, intelligent, fascial being that you are. Good, so let's come on up from this forward bending. Just nice and slow, just feeling the vertebrae begin to restack themselves, and then if you had the bolster, if you needed this, the bolstering forward, let's put it again in the back, about an arm's distance. And this time you can keep the legs out, or I would prefer to maybe just cross them in a little bit for maybe just a little bit different hip angling. And then the same thing, we want to interlock the fingers. You can either keep the palms open or you could bring them together this time. This will obviously clench the shoulder blades even more. And then let's reverse what we did last time. So last time we started in stillness and then we went to movement. Let's have the movement first this time. So any position of the head neck combination, just let the head intuitively go where it would like and hover, slow down, move into. And please do, explore these, these alleged boundaries for yourself. I'm just, I'm just really holding the container for exploration. I'm not really attempting to give you information. So when I suggest that there is no physical demarcation boundary between your thinking and your feeling and your sensations, I mean, I could even add the world to that, but really explore this. You have such an incredible capacity to stay present with your experience as it is. So not theory, not information, but what is your experience? Can you actually find a boundary between all of these labels that I'm proposing and that we propose to ourselves? And what makes this so incredibly interesting, exploring at this level, is that, yes, I said earlier that only experience is verifiable, but in a way that's moving so quickly, it's hard to catch it. So how is it that a visceral, physical, dense sensation morphs into something we're feeling? How does the experience of a feeling, an emotion that feels contracted or sad or elated, how does that morph into a thought? This is the inquiry. This is the self-inquiry. Good. So let's come into stillness for a moment if you happen to still be moving, and let's just sit with it and just bring your sensibility back to the stillness. Good. So let's release the arms now. And again, if you want to have a little, just a little lightness with them, a little arm movement. Good. So we're going to continue with this for a bit. And what I'm going to recommend is to take the bolstering, the big bolster, or some pillows and a blanket. And what we're going to attempt to do is to bring this into the, what I'm going to suggest is to start more in the upper back. So my shoulders are not on this. Yeah, I'm not that low down, but pretty much the whole mid-back section. Yeah. So two things here. Good chance you will need or want something for your head. So bolster that up for your head. And the other thing is this may present more intensity than you feel safe with. So you can fold a blanket and a towel, elevate your hips and just put the hips on this. This will alleviate a lot of that intensity. And again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just suggest this. So my arms will be out to the side. My shoulders will not be on the bolster. And then at some point, I may suggest to just shimmy the body up a bit or just readjust this so you can bring it down a little deeper into the, I mean, there's not a lot of room here, but you'd be surprised it makes a difference. So this is what we will do for now. And then feel free to have that blanket nearby in case you need to elevate those hips. This is a big backward bend in terms of the whole back line. So, but no, I will. I said, if I will, but at some point I will invite you to shift, and you'll shift the body like we did before with the two rolls. We'll just shimmy the body up and just adjust this a bit if you want to. You may be in an interesting place. So let's settle into that and we'll see what happens. And what I was saying earlier about the relationship between intimacy and hierarchy, I think it's relatively straightforward when we're talking about something that appears to us externally, another person or even practices, information, but to explore that within ourself, how we can favor or allow certain aspects of ourselves to feel somewhat elevated or special or superior. And especially in the realm of thought and intellect, is how we can allow that or actually believe that. So how to just sort of experiment and investigate and lean into your experience as being this being, this breathing, intelligent being without any sense of hierarchy. So to not give thought, not give intelligence, not give your, sort of your spiritual Rolodex any privilege. The thought is just an energy present. So how to move through the system with no sense of hierarchy at all. And then going from the intelligence that allows your body to breathe itself to a little bit more direction where we can start to allow the breath to just breathe or soften emptiness into any density that we're feeling. So the inherent spaciousness of the breath, we're not trying to push through something or manipulate something, but we're attempting to take the openness of the breath itself, the spaciousness of the breath, and allow it to soften into and permeate any density you're feeling at a physical level. Let the two just blend together. And again, see if at some level there's a boundary. Is there a boundary between what you're labeling density or discomfort and the open spaciousness of your breath? You can actually just imagine that you're breathing emptiness into the physicality, into the density, any knots or restrictions. So again, let's have a little bit of movement. You can put your feet flat on the floor, have a little wiggle, waggle back and forth a bit. Actually, sometimes it's nice just to elevate the hips up and down a bit. And then when you've had this movement, and what I'm hoping for is a little release before we come out, and we won't stay as long, so not to worry, but let's just move the position of the body a bit. So if you were pretty high up below the shoulders, maybe move it down a bit. If it was down, very close to the lumbar, maybe move it up a bit. So just a slight little movement here. And then let's let the legs relax back out. And even if this has become too tedious, I definitely understand. You could just roll to your side and turn the bolster sideways, so it's vertical now, and just tuck it in the lower back. And if you're using pillows and blankets, you just support the upper body. So we have some of the pillow blanket in the lumbar area, and then some support for the upper body. So we bring more blankets to bring the upper body up. But if you're able to stay with this, with it side to side, we won't be here that much longer. I just wanted to have a little bit of shift in just the back. I mean, it's amazing how just a small amount can make such a big difference. I mean, it's just really, I mean, it's really beyond amazing. Dr. Gamberto, one of the foremost cutting edge scientists studying fascia, says that what's going on inside the body is perfect chaos and beautiful harmony. It's just it's intelligent. You know, the body has this intelligence that we have often gotten far away from because of habits and culture and world. And so how to, you know, intuitively express and allow and listen and really be humble for the intelligence of the body. It's very, very easy to ignore it on some level, but then the body will express itself. So, you know, whatever, you know, we're taking for our health and well-being in our practice, whatever we're taking that is not based on direct experience, at some point will be an obstacle. So the yoga is saying, well, let's just slow everything down, and we live in this intelligent universe of a body. Let's at least learn how to listen to it. Let's really truly feel it at its essence. What is a sensation? What is a feeling? What is a thought? Okay, so let's release now. We will come out now, unless you're already out, if you made that little shift. So again, wherever you are, we'll put the feet on the floor and just make sure the muscular tension feels good to go. And then we'll roll off of this. And you can lay down and take a rest, please. So I'm going to give you a few choices here because I understand that the twist that I'm going to offer can be a bit challenging in the hips, and your hips may not want to be challenged right now. So I'm going to give you an option, which would just be to lie on your back and do a reclining twist of your choice. Yeah, so flat on the back with knees either left or right. I could also show you another one. But if you're open to uh, pressing into the hips a little bit and or just working into the shoulders. So let me just describe what I'm talking about. I'm having this blanket under my knees. So what we would do is to start in child's pose. Yeah, so I'll just go through them. We'll start in just a simple child's pose, and then you can open the knees out. Yeah, just side to side. So we're not going to come forward and come into a frog pose. This is just a wide knee child pose to whatever your capacity is. And then from here, a nice way to get into this is just to walk your fingers out. Forehead can be on the floor. And I just like to stretch the shoulders out and then support yourself on your right hand and just take the left arm and put it under that right armpit and relax on the left shoulder. The head can just relax down. So there's just a lot going on here. And this is much more of an upper body twist, obviously. If you are feeling like you want to draw into the shoulders in this way, something that I do quite a bit because I really love it is just straighten the legs out. So then you've removed the hip tightening and you're just relaxing onto this left shoulder. So the left arm is still under the armpit, but we're not in the child pose anymore, obviously. So those are two options there, the first one and the second one. Or you could indeed just lie on your back, say, no thank you, hips. And then either just flat on the back, just let both knees just go to the right, keep the left shoulder down. So that's a nice twist. To add a little weight to it, you could put the right leg over the left. So the right leg is on top, squeezing at the thighs. And then the weight of that right leg will deepen this reclining twist a little bit. You basically have three options: wide knee child, left arm under the right, lying flat on the belly, left arm under the right armpit, right side of the body relaxed down, or just reclining twist either way. So after that backward bend, it's really up to the energy of the back. It's not up to me. I used to think I was the moth and I realized I was the flame. And then when I became the flame, I realized I was the moth. So and it just keeps going round and round. The other thing that we can, really explore And this is really a very, to me, it's a very intelligent way to explore, but we have to become conscious of it. And especially if we're really want to explore this container of effortless receptivity, is to make sure that we don't come into our asana, we don't come into our body with any kind of intention. Yeah, and that may sound counterintuitive, but we have practices for intention. The idea being, if we can let go of our intention, that the intuitive nature of the body can often reveal an intention. So again, this goes back to micromanaging. If we have an idea of like, okay, well, that is painful, or that is tight, or this is injured, and I have an intention, then in a way we're bypassing something that could be very valuable at the level of intuitive intelligence or somatic intelligence. And we really cannot truly and deeply and authentically rest if we have an intention. So to let go of intention completely, and then just mental note, fine to take mental notes, but not with a sense of doing, not with a sense of intention. So we're absolutely just letting go to the experience as it arises, only what is verifiable. Good. So we're going to shift to the other side. So whichever configuration you are in, if you're in the wide knee child, I recommend to walk the knees back, give the hips a break, come back to child pose, regroup here. And then when you're ready, open the knees back out, and we'll take that right and put it under the left. If you're on your belly, you can just rise up, put right under left armpit. If you're in the reclining position, just undo everything, take a moment, and then go to the other side. I also think if we can take a rest from intention and really just allow just to sink in, just to deepen into this quiet, peaceful inner space. It's just it becomes in a way a different way to explore. And we can let in or make room for, whatever language you want to use here, but we can begin to appreciate that on some very real level, your body is just perfect. And yes, it may be injured and it may feel achy and there may be, all sorts of things going on, but this is just a matter of balance. At some level, this is just the internal dance of Shiva and Shakti. Things are always changing. But if you're breathing, the fundamental understanding is that your body is perfect. And we want to make space for that. We want to have some time where we're not holding the preoccupation on all the places of density, the places that are out of balance, the places that hurt, places that we have labeled as injured, the restrictions. There's time and a place for that, certainly, but we also want to have a container where we just rest in the perfection that we're still breathing, that the blood is still flowing, and this intelligence that has been taking care of most of our functions is working just fine. So however you can let this in, just make a bit of an opening to just feel that your body is perfect. So whichever position you're in, I invite you to find your way out of it. And we're going to have some time to rest now. So coming into your final Shavasana in any way that feels right to you. Yeah, stay in Shavasana if you would like. If you would like to sit up and close, please do. It's not what is happening, it's that it is happening. And namaste.